42% of Gen Z adults report living paycheck to paycheck. And in the Federal Reserve's 2025 survey, only 45% of adults ages 18 to 29 said that they could cover a $400 emergency using cash or its equivalent. A budget cannot magically fix a low income, but it can show you, before the month begins, what your income can actually support. So today, I'm going to build a complete beginner budget using $4,000 a month of take-home pay. You can follow the exact same process and replace my example numbers with your own. No paid budgeting app, no complicated spreadsheet, and no pretending that you're never going to spend money for fun. I'm Harrison, an active duty Army officer, and this is the Disciplined Dollar. A budget is not a punishment. It is not a list of everything you're no longer allowed to buy. A budget is simply a written plan for what your money needs to do each month. Consumer.gov breaks down the basic process into 3 steps. List your expenses, list your income, and subtract your expenses from your income. That is the starting point. But we're going to take it further by planning for irregular costs, dividing the budget by paycheck, and automating the important parts. Step 1 is to find your actual take-home pay. Do not use your annual salary. Use the money that actually reaches your checking account after taxes, insurance, retirement contributions, and every other payroll deduction. For this example, we're using $4,000 a month. That is the total amount we have available. We cannot build a realistic budget until we know that number. Next, open your bank and credit card statements. Look at what you actually spent during the normal month. Start with the expenses that are difficult to avoid: housing, utilities, groceries, transportation, insurance, and minimum debt payments. For our example, rent will be $1,250. Utilities, phone, and internet will total $300. Groceries will be $400, transportation is $300, insurance is $150, minimum debt payments will be $150. That gives us $2,550 of core monthly expenses. Subtract that from our $4,000 of take-home pay, and we have roughly $1,450 remaining. But that does not mean that we have $1,450 available for random spending. We will still have to prepare for expenses that do not arrive every month. This is where many first budgets fall apart. You remember the monthly bills, but forget about car repairs, annual registrations, gifts, travel, medical expenses, and unexpected social outings. These are not necessarily emergencies. You already know that most of them will eventually happen. You simply do not know the exact date. The solution is to estimate the annual cost and divide it by 12. Let's say we expect $600 a year in car maintenance. That becomes $50 a month. Registration and other annual fees total $20 per month. We expect to spend $600 a year on gifts, which becomes another $50 per month. We set aside $80 per month for travel, and we reserve another $50 for medical costs and miscellaneous expenses. That gives us roughly $250 per month for unexpected expenses that we can't count on happening every month. Some people call this a sinking fund. That simply means gradually saving for a future expense that you already expect to happen. Now, after setting aside that $250, we have roughly $1,200 remaining. Now, we decide what the remaining $1,200 needs to accomplish. You may have heard of the 50-30-20 budget. 50% goes to needs, 30% goes to wants, and 20% goes to your savings. Your actual income and expenses matter more than forcing your life into a perfect percentage. In our example, $600 goes towards saving or extra debt payments. Where that money goes first depends on your situation. If you have no emergency cushion, you need to start building one. If you have expensive credit card debt, paying that down may need to take priority. Next, $450 goes towards flexible spending. This includes restaurants, entertainment, shopping, and other things you choose to enjoy with your money. Finally, we leave $150 in checking as a small buffer for normal variations in spending. Now, the complete budget looks like this: $2,550 for core expenses, $250 for non-monthly expenses, $600 for savings or additional debt payments, and $450 for flexible spending. And we leave $150 for that checking account buffer. Together, those categories use the entire $4,000. Assigning every dollar does not mean spending every dollar. Saving, investing, paying down your debt, and maintaining a buffer are all valid jobs. The next step is to make the system depend less on memory and motivation. Bank of America's survey found that only 21% of Gen Z puts a set percentage of every paycheck into their savings each month. One way to do that consistently is through automatic transfers. In our example, every payday triggers 2 transfers. $300 goes towards savings or additional debt payments, and another $125 goes into the account holding money for non-monthly expenses. Finally, review the budget once a week for about 10 minutes. You do not need to obsess over every purchase throughout the day. Ask yourself 3 questions. Do I have enough reserve for my upcoming bills? Am I using my flexible spending money too quickly in the month? And is there a larger expense approaching that I need to prepare for? Then adjust the following week or the following month. Your first budget will not be perfect. It becomes accurate after you compare the plan with what you actually spent and correct the numbers. That is a complete beginner budget. From $4,000 of monthly take-home pay, $2,550 covers current necessities, $250 prepares for future irregular expenses, $600 builds savings or reduces debt, $450 can be spent without guilt, and $150 creates a little breathing room. A budget does not create more income. It stops you from accidentally promising the same dollar to 3 different things. Paul's only completed budget will replace these numbers with your own, and you'll have the first version of your own budget. If this breakdown helped, subscribe to the Disciplined Dollar for more straightforward personal finance videos.